Everyone thinks sanctions are just paperwork, names on a list, frozen accounts, ships blocked, banks warned. No, the new sanctions actually have wings. Long-range sanctions. Look at the events of the last 72 hours. Ukraine said its drones struck refining facilities in Russia's Tyumen region, more than 2,000 kilometers from Ukraine. 2,000, not near the border, not Crimea, Western Siberia. Then Zelensky said Ukraine now has modernized drones that can reach 3,000 kilometers. 3,000, that changes the map completely. Because if a refinery can be reached, it can be priced. If it can be priced, it can be threatened. If it can be threatened, it becomes a bargaining chip. This is not only a drone story. This is sanctions by fire. But then look at Iran. Same week, different weapon, no drone needed. Iran says the Strait of Hormuz is shut again. Washington disputes it. Ships still move. Traffic data becomes propaganda. Oil traders wait for Monday. And the US sends J.D. Vance to Switzerland for talks with Iranian officials, Qatar and Pakistan mediating, everyone pretending this is only about nuclear language. No, the truth is it's all about permission. Who gets permission to move oil? Who gets permission to sell oil? Who gets permission to reopen a sea lane? That is the hidden system. Russia's refinery problem, Iran's Hormuz problem, Taiwan's drone problem, China's supply chain power, America's sanctions keyboard, all connected. Now let's bring in the situation in Taiwan. Taiwan says China's coercion is intensifying. Taipei wants US arms approved fast. But Trump had called those arms sales a very good negotiating chip with China, a negotiating chip. Then Taiwan announces a new $210 billion defense package, about $6.66 billion for surveillance, coastal attack, and small unmanned surface drones. Drones again, sea drones, coastal drones, surveillance drones. Why? Because Taiwan is watching Ukraine. Taiwan understands the lesson. A weaker side cannot match a superpower ship for ship, missile for missile, plane for plane. So it builds a swarm, cheap, fast, hard to stop. 1,000 small threats instead of one giant target. That is Ukraine's lesson moving into the Taiwan Strait. And China sees it too. China is not asleep, not even for a moment. Beijing watches Ukraine strike Russian oil. It watches Iran squeeze Hormuz. It watches America trade Taiwan arms like a card. It watches Russia depend more on Chinese economics, and it learns one brutal lesson. The next war is not won by one big invasion. It is won by breaking the enemy's logistics before the world can react. Ports, refineries, pipelines, minerals, drones, fuel, insurance, permissions, that is the real battlefield. Now look at Russia. For years, Moscow believed distance was safety. Ukraine could fight near Kharkiv, near Crimea, near the front. But Siberia, Tyumen, more than 2,000 kilometers away, that was supposed to be deep territory. Now Ukraine is saying no place funding the war is psychologically safe. That is not symbolism. That is economic pressure. Russia sells energy to fund the war. Ukraine hits energy to raise the cost of war. Sanctions fail to stop Moscow. So drones are becoming the second layer of sanctions. Paper first, fire second. But here is the dangerous part. This logic spreads. If Ukraine can strike Russian refineries to weaken Russia, Iran can use Hormuz to weaken American pressure. China can use minerals, ports, ships, and customs checks to weaken Taiwan's allies. And America can use sanctions, oil waivers, arms delays, and blockades to force everyone back to the table. Everyone calls their own weapon defensive. Everyone calls the other side's weapon terror. That is how the gray zone grows. No declaration, no clean beginning, just pressure. One refinery burns, one tanker pauses, one drone crosses water, one arms sale is delayed, one export license is held, one sea lane becomes uncertain. And ordinary people pay before generals admit the war expanded. A Ukrainian family hears missiles. A Russian driver queues for fuel. An Iranian trader waits for sanctions relief. A Taiwanese factory owner watches the strait. A Chinese refinery buyer checks discounted crude. An American voter watches petrol prices. 6 countries, one pressure chain. The truth is, the world has moved beyond old sanctions. The new punishment is physical. Drones hit what banks cannot. Straits block what courts cannot. Supply chains choke what armies cannot reach. And small states are learning the darkest lesson of the age. If the big powers won't stop your enemy, hit the fuel, hit the port, hit the permission system. So should the world call this deterrence? Or are we watching sanctions turn into a slow-motion world war?